So we're ready to go.
Do you want me to go first?
Sure.
I can go first.
Is your name on the list?
My name is the first one on the list.
Oh, good.
yes. Okay, first I want to thank you guys. I know this is for most it's a voluntary position, and this is, quite the years to be in that position. So I do respect your service. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I know you guys are definitely in a tough place with the mandates coming down, trying to find ways around it for parents who aren't happy. So anyways, I spent the last several weeks trying to find science, and I found lots of it. I'm sure if any of you have looked into the science, you also know there's not much science to back the mandate that she put into effect, which is why there is a lot of parents here who are very upset and community members. So as I was doing that, I seen a few days ago that 2 members of the legislature decided to put out a letter that they had a conference call on August 2nd. I don't know if Mr. Yates was part of that or not, but Dr. Dean Seidlinger said in this conference that there is no, let me make sure I get this right actually, that there is no scientific evidence that schools or children grades K through 12 are responsible for community spread. We also know kids have a very small chance of mortality from COVID. You actually have 10 times the chance of dying in a car accident than you do as a child than dying of COVID. So if we know that we're not spreading it to the community, we know kids can get it, but they don't get it near as bad as the flu. Why are we masking our children if they're not contributing factors to that? So essentially what the government has done has said, we know that there is no scientific evidence to back our decision, but we're going to do it anyways, causing harm on these children. We know masks cause developmental harm. We know learning. They learn face cues from their teachers, from society. When they are masked, they are not getting these developmental factors that they need. The masks are inhibiting that. Also physical, there's studies on that. So what they're saying is we're going to do it anyways, and you aren't going to do anything about it, or we're going to take your livelihood away. Essentially, that's what has happened here. Not maybe for the school board members, but for teachers and the leadership. And I know that's rough. But my question is how far does this go? It's with masks now. They're threatening to shut us back down again in the fall. They said, get your schools ready. We're going to go to distance learning. And we know our kids cannot survive another year of distance learning. The harm was too much. The lack of learning was too much. They can't do that again. And most parents don't have the option to homeschool. So when is it, as a board, that you decide to take a morally conscious stand for what is right? At what point are we going to stand up and say, like the teacher in Turner, I'm not going to mask my kids in the classroom because it's not right. You don't have a reason to do it. We have to take a stand. We can't go on the rest of this time just saying, oh, well, that's the rules. Our founding fathers came here to get away from those rules, to stand up against the government when the rules weren't right. So we have to know, when is your stand? When will it be for our kids? And you're in this position because you wanted to be here for your kids and stand up for the kids. I know your lawyer said, I heard that they said you can't do anything about it. I'm sure there's lawyers out there who can, because I've heard of several lawsuits going on. Let's find something. Let's do something. So my question is to the board, at what point of harm to our children, when it has no backing to it, and they have told us to our face there's no backing to it, are you going to stand up and take a stand for our children? Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I need to mark my name off, or we're good?
No, that's
Okay, make sure you sign in if you're not on the list.
Jamie Kobat?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll sit on the chair, right? Thank you all for being here, first of all. I'm not here to beat you up, and I hope you don't take it that way once I get started. It's not personal. I'm not here to beat anybody down or tell anybody how to do their jobs, but that's kind of what we're here to do also, is to hopefully you'll listen to us and be directive about what you do for your jobs. So I'll just get started. First of all, there's 1,000 attorneys and 10,000 doctors. There's actually more than that. There's 15,000 doctors now that have filed lawsuits for the violations of Nuremberg codes. I don't know if you know what those are. I hope you do. Because anybody that violates these codes, regardless of your position, will be held accountable. They are suing for crimes against humanity. I followed them for a very long time. I've spoke to the doctor, and he's very on board for everybody. Doesn't matter who you are. So also, I believe you've all taken an oath. Is that correct? Did you all take an oath?
Did we all get a shot?
No, an oath. Did
Take
you
an
take
oath.
an
Oh,
oath when
yes,
you
yes,
signed
yes,
up
yes.
for this position?
Yeah.
You did, correct?
Yes.
The school board took it up.
That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
We didn't
So
sign
with
up.
that oath, that involves the Constitution, correct? Am I right?
It's not based on the Constitution.
But the Constitution, you signed that, that's part of your oath. That says it right in your wording. I have the constitutional oath that you took to the school board. So with that being said, we're going to hold you accountable to that. That involves law. This for you may be whoever's best interest is at it. I don't care. These are children, and this is a complete violation of their rights. There's nothing that you're going to do to prove differently with these masks. We all understand that. Well, at least most of us do. So the word's getting out. We're all human. We're not going to stand for it much longer. People are tired. We're here because we want to protect our children. And I believe that was the best interest for them when you took your job, was to protect the children and fight for them to get an education, correct? So why are you here if you're not going to keep their best interest at heart? Correct? Okay. I want to thank you all for your time. I went to school here, by the way. I have 24 grandchildren. I'm not going to leave.
Thank you.
Quick question. We have the microphone out here, and people were wondering if we could just like set it inside so they could hear what's going on outside.
Do you mean you're gonna put the speaker inside here so we can hear what's,
There's the microphone, so
oh, so they can hear what's going on in here?
outside, so they can.
That's fine if you want.
Fine, okay,
Sure.
awesome, thank you.
Eduardo Jimenez.
All right, well, good afternoon, and I want to thank you guys for having the opportunity to have a voice of concern in regards to the mass of our children. Before I get into a little bit about myself, no, I'm not a doctor, scientist, healthcare provider, or even a politician. I'm a parent of 2 children that mean more to me than the world. My name is Eduardo Jimenez, and I'm a 9-year Army combat veteran. I fought for these freedoms. You're not going to take these freedoms from my children. It's not going to happen. And you know what? The funding you're talking about, I don't see it. Because every weekend when school's going on, or even in the summertime, there's kids out there washing cars, doing yard sales, just to be able to do what they want to do in school sports-wise. Where's that funding coming from? What funding are you talking about? Because I see it on the streets. It's not coming from anywhere else. Now, we understand older kids have a choice to vaccine or put a mask on. I get it. But you know what? There is no science out there showing that 0 to, we're going to say, 12 years old, because that's when the vaccine can go and get put in their arms. There's nothing showing that these kids, 0 to 12, are passing it on. There's nothing showing that 12 to 18 to 19-year-olds are passing it on. Passing it on is the people that are already getting vaccinated, already have the shot in their arm, already have COVID in their body. That's who it is. My kids will never get that shot. I will never get that shot. It doesn't make any sense. This mask mandate, have you guys listened to any of the doctors that talk about these masks and how small these particles that come out of your mouth are? It's like putting up a chain link fence and trying to keep mosquitoes out of your yard. Makes no sense. So I ask you, please stand up for our children. Do something. You guys have the power to do it right now. They're listening to you guys. They're not listening to us, obviously not. Because this has been coming up for 2 years now, and I've only lived in this town, I'm going on 3 years. So don't give me that crap that, oh, they have to, we have to, they said so. That's crap. In the military, there's also pushback, and some pushback wins, but you're not going to know until you try. So we're asking you, I did the same oath against foreign and domestic, correct? Do you think your parents wouldn't be sitting here today if it was up to them what was happening in your guys' face when you guys came up in school? Would they be sitting here or no? Or they be sitting at the house like, oh, well, our Lord and Savior Kate Brown said we had to do it, so you know what? Here you go. Put these things on your face and shut up. Sorry, it's not going to happen.
Hey, everybody. I'm bringing this right here. I wrote down what I'm going to say because I don't want to get emotional about it. And I will say this one thing. If this is about funding, shame on all of you. Shame on all of you. If this is about funding, putting masks on kids because of funding, if this is what it's about, shame on you. Because I have raised the money for the Veterans Parade in one day going around. And that's over $40,000 in one day, raising money for a parade. So if this is about funding, shame on you, okay? My name is Josh Rebel. My children will be attending Sandridge Charter School this year, and we are all excited to start a new school year. However, as we begin to get prepared for this year, I must say that I am extremely disappointed. Not for anything besides the lack of logical and scientific reasoning. I am a data and statistics guy, and this is what I have found. Please record this and write it down. You all have pens and paper. This comes straight from our Oregon Health Authority, okay? Have you seen all the statistics on the Oregon Health Authority so far? Have you? Yes? Nods? No?
Yes.
Okay. Total population for Oregon children ages 0 to 19 equals 963,473. Total COVID cases since January 2020, 37,982, which is 3.9%. Total hospitalizations of those COVID, 352, which is 0.93 of 1% of those with COVID were hospitalized. Total deaths, 3. That's 0.0079 of 1% of those children had COVID died. That is a 99.9921% survival rate. There has been no child across the U.S. that has died without comorbidities or pre-existing conditions, per the CDC. Additionally, there is 0 scientific data and 0 cases, per the CDC, that have shown a child to pass COVID onto a teacher. If you look at how scientists handle this virus in a lab, common sense tells you a mask you buy from Walgreens or Walmart isn't going to do the job. It's like thinking you can keep mosquitoes out of your yard with a chain link fence. It doesn't make sense.
30 seconds.
Decisions cannot be made from fear or fear mongering. They must be educated and based on statistics, data, and science. If we don't use data or science to make decisions, we are making decisions based on feelings of fear. I will not sit back and be silent, and I urge you to listen to real statistics, data, and or science to decide what our community wants for our children, not based on what individuals on a board think. The power is in the people, not the people on a council or board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I didn't come here planning to speak, so I don't have anything written down ready to go. I know you guys have a tough job. You're not going to make everybody happy, right? Bo, I want you to know when you were back here telling us if a bunch of us have the same message, you're going to cut it short. You started to say that you're allowing us to speak, but you caught yourself. I want you to know that didn't go unnoticed. Okay? It's our right to come here and speak. You guys are here to represent our children. You guys are here to do the best thing for our children. The things we want for our children, the things we need for our children. We got a lot of people out here. Where's the passion from you guys that we see from these other school districts across the state? I can think of talent. Culver is a couple that come off the top of my head. There's multiple others who have stood up and said, no, we're not going to follow what this dictator is saying to do. Stand up and do the right thing. I know you guys know what happened in Albany. They got a new board and they're getting a new superintendent. It's that simple. It's that simple. I challenge you all to go watch a show on Netflix. It's called How to Be a Tyrant. They follow Gaddafi, Hussein, Hitler, all these others. All these things they did to gain buy-in from the people. Quote unquote, dumbing down the children, not allowing education, saying they're doing this stuff for our safety, for our health. All this stuff is going on right now. Stand up, do the right thing for our children.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aspen Rogers. I'm the mother of an incoming kindergartner. I have 3 children, and nothing fills me with more dread than the thought that something could happen to them. I'm here to share information I gathered researching school safety in regards to COVID. As the pandemic has progressed since March of 2020, I've observed outrageous displays of government overreach from governing bodies, including mask mandates and business closures. Today, I have the chance to say enough. Since the CDC began keeping record of COVID deaths, less than 500 children were reported nationally. As of July 23rd, the vaccine is freely available to persons over the age of 12. Oregon received 5.8 million doses of the vaccine, and as of August 10th, has administered 4.8 million of those doses. Oregon has a population, 57% are fully vaccinated, and 62% have had at least 1 dose. As of now, Oregon is one of 17 states to have a mask mandate, but we are ranked 12th in the nation for total vaccinated population. This data and community observation tells me that everyone in Oregon that wants a vaccine has had at least 1 dose. 400 deceased US children is a tragedy, but it does not translate to a mask mandate for the lowest risk population in a state where vaccination rates are in the top quarter of the nation. With hybrid and online learning options for at-risk children and families, it is past time for our schools to open without masks and for our kids to stop paying the price for a situation that they have no say in. I will be sending my daughter to public school this fall without fear, knowing full well the risk that I will be subjecting her and others to. The leading cause of death for persons under the age of 18 was automobile accidents, according to records from 2018. 4,500 children were lost, over 10 times the number lost to COVID, yet no one here is proposing that we stop driving our children. We, the people, and not we, the government, know the risks and have made our decision. Do your duty and strike down masks for the Lebanon School Community District. Bring back smiles to our school and let our children thrive again. I also speak as a former child who was forced to stay home without a choice. You are damaging our children. and you are taking away the most important pieces of their lifetimes. Let them be kids and let them be free.
I think we can still finish.
Yeah, if you, I mean, it's up to you, Mike,
Yeah,
however,
that's what I'm looking at.
10?
We're looking about 10 or 12 more minutes, then we'll have to move on with the meeting. Well, yeah, well, that's fine.
Thank you for tonight. Thank you for opening your forum to all of us. My name is Melinda Davis. I've been in this community for 58 years. I've raised 3 children. I have 8 grandchildren here, 7 of which will be going to school in Lebanon schools, different schools. I have a couple of questions. One is, or first of all, I know you can't make everybody happy, and I know that it must be a tough job for all of you, because you can't make everybody happy, and boy, wouldn't that be nice. But my question is, when you're considering everything that you've heard tonight, would you also consider medical exemptions? And I know they're not easy, and I know that's a really tough question. But I know that there are some children, for lots of reasons, not a little wimpy reason, but some children have seizures. Some children have lots of really valid reasons for not being able to wear a mask for a full day. So please consider medical exemptions for some children. Thank you.
Bacteria, period. No, we don't want mass, period.
There already is an exemption for IEPs
Oh, yeah.
and for medical and.
Can't sit down. Can I use this microphone, please? Is this working?
That's for outside. You'll have to talk.
They can hear me outside. Oh, that's for outside.
Then we can't hear you.
My name's Elisa Trillia. I've lived in Lebanon for 42 years. I've worked for the school district as an instructional assistant with special ed and in many teachers' classrooms. Wonderful teachers. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm not going to give statistics about the mask because this whole thing is not about mask. This whole thing is about complete control. Our children are not for sale to get funds from the federal government to keep us going. Our government is against the people. Can't you see? They are against the people. They have decided who's essential, who isn't. They have decided who's going to go into the store and buy food. I'm telling you, people, this is where it's coming. All the networks are owned by China. Any educator should know that by now. We are listening and being fed, brainwashed, all this propaganda. Now it's got to stop. Do you know there are states right now that have already made laws to vaccinate your children without consent? I want to know. Please raise your hand. Would you want a government to tell you without your consent that your child can get vaccinated? Please give me an answer, a yes or a no. No.
We're here to listen to your
Okay. I hope you think about that because it's coming and I'm going to show you the states that already have. Would you like someone to inject anything into your child without your consent? Would you like a government to decide or a local government to decide to inject something into your child without your consent? Would you? Do you have children or grandchildren? Would you like a government to inject an experimental concoction that they don't even tell us what's in it into your child without your consent?
You can ask those questions rhetorically.
I want to do each one of you because I want to look you in the eye and I hope you really think about it because that's what's coming down to our little town in Lebanon.
I'm just saying that
They're dividing the people.
This isn't debate. You're
No,
giving your.
okay, so I'm going to give those states so you can see what's coming down here. This is coming to every single community. They are dividing us. They're telling you that they're telling us on that soapbox that it's the vaccinated, the unvaccinated that are putting those vaccinated people in the hospital. That is a total lie because if anybody watching that should know, it's a lie. So just so you'll have this information, which I don't think you'll write it down, I'm going to give you the states. We're heading there right now. And if we don't stop this mass stuff, this is just a step. This is what communists do. They take a little bit of your freedom to give it back. This is going to go on until everyone is totally controlled. And we in this community will not sell our children to the federal government for funds. Everyone, and I will be the first one to promote it, that we will unroll our children if it's, and I'm sorry, teachers, because there are people that have already lost their jobs and already are starving. It's coming to your door. It is communism here. And if you keep bowing down to the federal government that is against us, we are all going to lose our rights inch by inch.
Okay, time's up.
We already are. So think about there, and I didn't even tell you the states, but it's real. And there are lawsuits against them states right now. Alabama's one of them.
Time's up.
Age 11 in one of the states can consent for themselves, and a healthcare giver can consent. Think about it. It's
Your
true.
time's
I will
up,
send you the information.
please.
This is what's going on in our world right now. Worldwide, they're taking our rights away.
Okay,
so
release
they
the
can
floor
dominate us.
to the next person, please.
This is how Cuba started.
Communism is not America.
And Cuba's already starving.
My parents fled Cuba because of this.
You guys have the power.
All right, let's have order. Does anybody else want to speak? We've got time for maybe one more.
Things. Oh, we can do it. You got time for one more? Is this put in your schedule?
What's that?
You guys do the shit. To listen to the community. Yep. We pay your wages.
I don't get
You
paid.
understand that?
I don't get paid.
Property taxes pay your wages.
I don't get paid.
Without any one of us, you don't get a paycheck.
All right, next.
Stand up or stand down. That's where all this whole group believes it.
You should be ashamed.
Mike, we should probably either clear just clear everybody out if they're not gonna follow what we're supposed to be doing.
All right, if we can't have this meeting run without a respectful discourse happening, then we'll have to clear the room or just adjourn the meeting.
What's the point of the meeting though? If
It-
you're gonna do nothing about it.
People that signed up that are yelling now are not helping the situation.
Hi, my name's Renee Lindsay.
Let's move forward with.
Okay,
next
my name's
person.
Renee Lindsay. And I'm asking you a question. We are being run by the governor. That really is not her job. She just signed paperwork so that kids graduating from high school don't need to know fundamental reading or writing or arithmetic. And her basis for that was so that it would be easier for minority kids to graduate. That is the most racist piece of shit, and I'm sorry for that I have ever heard. Our schools talk about how much they love their children. When you can put something like that into state law, there is nothing in this state that is for the children. Nothing. It's only power. We also know that masks lower your CO2 level. They lower your CO2 level the more that you do. A child running in the back of the school, running from class to class, we have lowered their CO2 levels. That is very, very dangerous. In compromised systems, it can create cancer. I did not know this, but I've been doing a lot of reading lately. I think we need to really look into our souls and say, are we here for the children? Are we here for our little dictator? What are we here for? We're here for the kids so that they get a good education, a good foundation, so that they can fulfill whatever they need to fulfill in their life. And I don't think that the way we're going with our school districts is doing that. We are going backwards on a silly slide, and I just don't know where it's going to end. I have no idea. I used to be a school board member. I may run for it again. I don't know. But I think that somewhere along the line, the bureaucracy has shaped the school districts so that the kids are last on the list. They are last. It's the bureaucracy, it's the political boundaries that are creating what we have. And we really need to take a step back and say, what do we need to do for our kids? What do we need to educate them, to create a good environment for them? I hope that you all think about that and know that masking is not one of them.
Thank you. That's all the time we have for comments right now. We'll resume them later in the meeting. And we'll move the meeting along as quickly as we can so we can get to the comments. The board has heard what you had to say, and a lot of us have similar sentiments. Well, that's a complicated question. Well, it is. But this is not.
One thing really quick that I want to make sure the board knows.
Hold it. You don't have the floor. You didn't sign up. You're not.
I did sign
there.
up. I just had something really important that I wanted the board to know about your students here about with this mass liability and kids running with masks.
Well, let us finish the meeting and.
We'll get another chance.
So do you have a solution? You were going to say something about it. Is there a solution?
No, all I said is that we have similar sentiments, some of us. I can't speak for anybody but myself. I'm one vote on this board.
Can you speak to us? What is yours then? If only one board member is willing to stand up?
Talk to me afterwards. This is not during the meeting. This is not part of the meeting. So moving along, I have to apologize. We were, all right. If people are going to keep chiming in, we're going to have to clear the room. We won't get anything done, and that's just got to be understood. So respect that. We're moving on to the second item, which it was not on the agenda. We added it late. And it is a board resolution, which I will read right now. And all the board members will be required to sign it. This is 8/12/2021. This is a resolution petition to the governor to rescind the July 29th mask mandate that she made for schools for the 21-22 school year, and return all to local health and safety decision-making that took place on June 25th, when she released that to the boards to make the decision about masking in the schools. Whereas on June 25th, 2021, Governor Kate Brown issued a recovery order which shifted public school districts to a more traditional local decision-making model so that communities can make the health and safety decisions that serve their students best. Whereas on 29th of June, 2021, Governor Kate Brown directed the Oregon Health Authority and the Oregon Department of Education to create a rule to require masks indoors for K-12 students statewide for the upcoming 2021 school year. Now therefore be it resolved that the Lebanon Community School Board objects to the July 29th mandate for K-12 schools and supports the June 25th recovery order that returns governance to a local decision-making model so that communities can make health decisions and safety decisions that serve their students best. Be it further resolved that the board recognizes we want our schools to be safe, welcoming to all students, staff, and parents. The board aims to keep students in school and supply them with the best academic, athletic activities and wraparound support services possible while keeping students, staff, and families safe. The above resolution petition statements were provided and declared adopted on August 12th, 2021. We signed by the superintendent, all board members and sent to the governor. Moving on, 3, the summer school update.
Smuckley is going to give a summer school update.
There is a document that was left on at your station there with some summer school data. It's been a great experience. We've had, we're in our third of 3 sessions. We have 1 more week. The elementary and middle school have had lots of fun experiences learning about plants, space, dinosaurs, bats, along with reading and writing and math every day. And as you know, we've partnered with the Boys and Girls Club to do the enrichment activities in the afternoons. At the high school, we've had 130.75 credits earned thus far, and 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 students moving to being on track for graduation when they started the summer off track. One of the special highlights we have is there's 120 students who received special education services that are participating or have participated in summer school. And we've seen tremendous growth and success in the areas of behavior, socialization, academic endurance, and communication. And so students who have previously struggled to go to school and last a full day have been able to attend a full day of summer school, and it's been quite successful for many kids. And we have 1 week to go. It's the longest summer school we've had. The staff that have been running it are working very hard to keep these great experiences for our kids. And you can see the data here of how many have attended. The average day, it looks like the second session, which was in the middle of July, was the best attended of all the sessions.
Is that, Jennifer, did that happen last year? Was it?
We had 2 3-week sessions last year, and this year we have 3 3-week sessions. Oh, last year was, yeah, I skipped the whole year.
I was thinking.
Last year was virtual.
Year before that.
The year before that, yes.
Sure, you might want to close the door because we're getting a lot of noise from outside as well.
Is this being streamed on YouTube?
It is. It's live streamed if they want to log in out there. I don't know if they can.
On YouTube, it's on YouTube. Vaccines kill. Bo just got removed. Got censored.
All right, let's move on.
So that's our summer school update. As you know, we've been giving you updates all along, and it's been a great experience for kids. Great to have kids and staff, involved and engaged throughout the summer.
We've had a good successful.
Really a great program.
100 staff members that have been working on summer school.
Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing. We did summer school last year virtually. Was the only way we could do it. And the year before, you can't interrupt the meeting, man. I don't know. Alicia, is this not working right?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, we've had, so over the last year, last year we had summer school that we ran virtually. We've also, the year before that, we did 3 3-week sessions, used the same model. Other school districts have really, this was a kind of a new item for them to do, and we've been doing it. And really it's the commitment, that I feel that we need to, have some urgency in dealing with our kids when they fall behind.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a way for us to be able to do that and provide our staff with an opportunity to work with kids over the summer. But I think even more importantly, it's the concept that we're not going to allow kids to fall behind. And that goes along with what we're doing with after-school programs. And then the continual refinement of those programs, having the Boys and Girls Club do afternoon projects, do swimming, having our kids go to the pool, learn how to swim, do those things. It's kind of like, it's a summer camp, but we're working on ELA and math as well. So, we're trying to look at every opportunity to help kids And yeah, and right now our kids need all the help they can
Yeah.
get. So
What was the total attendance? Was it for?
Well, the average daily attendance are listed out here for each session. So for example, for grades 1 through 5, the average daily attendance in session 2 was 110 students. 138 attended at
We had
least
really,
one
really
day,
good numbers.
which is bigger numbers than we've had in the past, for sure.
Yeah.
And our transportation and food services departments have been amazing
Yeah,
to
that ran really well.
get our students here and there and everywhere and feed our students as well. So it's a lot of work that goes into it. The details are immense, but it's gone well, and we learn every time. And sounds like they've taken a lot of feedback from parents on and adjusted. So that's what we want to do: keep refining and making a better program and experience for our students.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Superintendent's evaluation timeline. I think that'll come up on the screen there. This is informational only, and you can read through it yourself. It kind of it lays out month by month what we should be doing as a board to gather information and to stay on track for an evaluation that would end on March 15th. This was done in conjunction with COSA, which is the Confederation of School Administrators. So OSBA worked with COSA to develop, to go through OSBA's present evaluation process. And some of it didn't change at all. They had 9 standards that were used, and now they're at 8. So they combined a couple, visionary leadership, ethics professional, norms, inclusive district learning and culture, culturally responsive instruction leadership, communication and community relations, organizational management, financial management, and policy governance. And so those are the areas that we will be evaluating as the board for the superintendent. And they're still using a 1 through 4, numbering system. So if it's accomplished, each one of these areas, then it's a 4. If it's effective, it'll be a 3, developing a 2, and ineffective would be 1. And then there's some that may be not applicable only because that didn't fall into his goals for the year. So I don't know if there's anything else we really need to do at this time, other than I know at the last meeting, I believe right after sometime during the meeting, we went over the goals briefly, and Bo's going to go over his goals again tonight so that we can keep those, in mind when we're gathering information. And then Bo will be giving us reports periodically, most likely at board meetings, about the progress on each of the goals that he's set. And then if the board at any time during this meeting or over the next month before September comes around, if they would shoot me their ideas for any goals that we might want to add that may become board goals that would be for Bo, then get them to me, I'll compile them and present them at the September meeting. But let's not do that tonight. I think that would lengthen the meeting quite a bit. So any questions from board members?
Do we abandon the process of hiring someone to recommend?
Oh,
Right into this.
no, yes. We did. Did we abandon the question of whether we would hire somebody to?
Basically set out a process by which we were going to perform the evaluations for the superintendent, because we were looking at hiring someone to set that out, make a recommendation, because it's really hard with admin. They have, their own hats they need to wear, and the board needs to do this on their own. So we had talked about hiring someone to set out that process for us and make recommendations.
How do you feel about that, Richard?
I like the fact that we have an outside party to help us through that process. I think it keeps it above the board, transparent. I'm certainly not
Yes.
Tammy, I couldn't hear you. I don't know if your microphone's not on or not.
It's on.
Okay.
Maybe it wasn't. I apologize.
There you go. I hear you now.
It requires me to push a button, Todd.
Thank you.
All right, just to recap that. So last time we talked about this, we had thought about getting a contractor to help set out the board's idea of a review process for the superintendent. And now it looks like we are, I don't want to say relegating, but we're sticking to this that comes from the Oregon State.
That's just being presented right now. If we want to look into that, I'll look into it, and we'll see if there's somebody out there that can do that work.
Well, I thought we already had a process chosen, so I'm wondering why we switched.
Oh, I'm not sure about a process. Maybe I'm spacing it out, but
Okay.
did we have an actual process we had?
We were supposed to look into hiring a contractor to set out a process for us, not just go out and adopt. And
Okay.
where did this come from?
I don't know, maybe I missed that or something.
Where did this come from?
Oregon School Board
Or
Association.
OSBA.
Okay, so OSBA. I don't think we intended to just go grab something off of OSBA's website. That was not my understanding.
Right,
So
I-
I'm just wondering how we got to this.
Yeah, I did the webinar on this and we've used their form for the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years.
I know, but I thought we decided what we were doing wasn't working.
Oh. Okay, well, I'll look into it.
Okay,
I'll bring something back in September.
okay.
So, I mean, we're setting goals now anyway. This is pretty early for the superintendent's evaluation. I mean,
Right.
we're looking at March, 22, the 15th, so that we've got a little bit of time.
It's just it came up kind of fast last time, so.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was really late, I think.
Right,
Yeah,
and I don't want to do that again.
no, I don't want to do that either. So, all right. So if that's agreed, then I'll look into getting an outside party to
Thank you.
steer us onto a different process. Okay, so let's move on to, well, why don't we hold off on the superintendent's goals then? Or,
Yeah, the point of having alignment in the process and the goals, I mean, that's the whole point of what we're trying to do, I would assume. I tried to make that very clear when I
Right.
was hired that I was interested in having significant improvement and I wanted it based off of actual numbers, not off of maybe a rubric or, because the board doesn't see what I do on a daily basis, but my responsibility is to make sure that the kids are achieving at a higher level, that our teachers are doing a better job, and we're improving as a system. So that's just, we can do whatever. I trust your judgment on that. I just really feel that if I wasn't here, I would want to have a system for my kids that would really be based in hard facts as well. And
I'm just asking real quick.
the audience can't ask questions in the middle without being recognized by the chair. That's Robert's rules. I mean, look it up.
I thought the chairholder had to recognize the person speaking also.
this is not a participatory part of the board meeting.
No, but the audience is not part of the meeting at this point. That you are at the beginning, you have comments. What's that?
You're supposed to call out the person to answer the question that you're asking or they're asking, whatever it is, right?
Well, yeah,
Open forum just between you guys so that she can get, or whoever it is, take a person's name down who's asking a question or answering the question, some of that, right? You pick who talks also.
well, you're bringing into it more than, we need the audience to be quiet so we can conduct the meeting.
Well, we're actually the community, we're not live here.
Look, we're not going to continue this meeting. If there's another outbreak, I'm going to call it. So you decide, you keep blurting out, we're just going to cut the meeting, It's
Mike, I would not suggest
You're
cutting the
back there
meeting.
laughing, yet the point is, it's irrespectful, it's disrespectful, not only to the board and the superintendent, but just having some decorum. We have to respect the process and respect what's going on. Did you have any more?
So, Bo, to come back
Yeah, we can,
to that, did you want to talk about that tonight, or is that something you feel, how do you feel about it tonight? I mean, I feel either way, we can discuss it, or we can come back to what
No,
Tammy's
I
talking
just,
about.
yeah, I just want us to be aligned in what we're doing. And so there's just total transparency.
Absolutely.
Right? And so, there are ways that when we evaluate teachers, sometimes I don't think we always get the best evaluation because there's a lot of things in there that, okay, what is it? Here's Bo on 1 to 4 on this. Well, I don't know. How do I find that out?
Mhm.
And so I've tried to do like a 360 with, my immediate leadership team to figure out what we're doing. But I just think it's very difficult to make that be substantive. And that's what I would like it to be, because that's the same thing I'm pushing on with our administrative teams, that we don't want to just do work. We want to do work that's going to improve our system and make it better. So I would feel, I wouldn't feel very good about having my evaluation not follow in line with what I'm asking them to do as well.
Right.
So,
The goals have to be in
Okay.
line.
yeah. And I think before, when we had talked about that, half of it was based off of student improvement and half was on the utilizing the matrix that
Yeah.
the OSBA had provided. So whatever, if there's a lot of superintendents that are evaluated through that OSBA process, but this is the only place I've ever been a superintendent, and so I don't know what.
Are you comfortable with what we have in here in the board packet?
I want you guys, and I want the community, and I want our teachers to know that I'm going to be held accountable to the same standards that
That's
they
right.
are, right? Because it's a system. It's not just,
Yeah, we definitely want to
whether
know
you
what-
like me or don't like me, there's results that have to come from the position I'm in.
Yeah.
Right, but also
So-
the board has to drive the agenda of what happens. And in the past, it hasn't quite worked. There've been holes in our evaluations, things that didn't quite mesh up. And I think that's why we were kind of thinking outside the box. And so that's what I would prefer to do so that he gets a fair evaluation.
And Tammy, I would like to add that I think the part that you're saying and Bo is trying to say is that the timeline doesn't match when the data comes in. And I believe at our prior meetings that we talked about, we mentioned that it's hard to evaluate without actual numbers. And so by adjusting dates, so we have the data, then we're able to actually base on a foundation, not just through assumptions and through the lack of actual data, basically. And Bo, correct me if I'm wrong, Tammy as well, but I think that was the one issue that we came up with, we were talking about that the timeline just didn't match with the dates that the data came in.
No, I think that's 100% true. It seems like the evaluation is always a year behind, kind of, and that's not a very effective way to do things. But
That's not going to help you
No.
or us or
No,
anyone at
exact-
all. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it
we
should
wanna
be
all
a
be on the same
collaboration.
page.
I mean, we've put together like goals that I think are like goals that everybody can buy into, that I know are going to improve our system, but there's other things that are involved with that as well that maybe, need to be different things that you would like to see, go along with that. I mean, right now, going out and trying to, do a GO bond and some of those things that are on the backside that really, they're not specifically student achievement, but they're the job of a superintendent to make that happen. So I'm open. I mean, I just want to, I feel like at least when we've had the conversation, I felt like the board was honest in regards to, this is working, this is not working. I'm not sure, it being 56, 55, 56, there's not going to be an epiphany that is like, oh God, this is what I need to do to change. What I need to do is make sure that our system is, sound and our kids are getting educated and we're improving. But that's,
I'd like to see what you said earlier, a process that we put in place that can be used year after year. And it's a stable process that we believe in.
Right. That's what we're
And then as
talking
board
about.
members, change the process goes on.
Right, so if it wasn't, yeah, so,
Yeah.
and we're doing the same deal with like with our administrative teams, with grade level teams, trying to make sure that, hey, at each grade level, we're learning this and we're learning from each other. So if we're a fifth grade team, we're meeting, looking at data, trying to figure out how we get better. But as a, my job is to facilitate that and make it work. And so when we look at data that we see that, hey, we are making progress. We're getting kids out of those ones. We're getting kids into the 3s and 4s. That's what we want to, when we look at that grading scale. But honestly, with where we're at with COVID right now, we're on a baseline, we're going to be doing a baseline year. And so I can probably try to go back and take a look at previous data, which I will, to see where we're at, because we need to see where our kids are at right now in order to, how has COVID affected where our kids are at grade level after our first run of STAR assessment. So,
well, and our timeline is directed, this is a flexible timeline here, up to March 15th. March 15th, though, is Oregon administrative rule. We have, that is state law. We have to have it done by the 15th. But the rest of it, when we gather the data, is flexible.
Well, and I remember we had the discussion also that we were needing to do check-ins, which we had not done in the past, so that we could tell where we were in that process. Are we running ahead? Are we running behind? Where are we at? But Bo can't provide us that data unless the timeline is appropriate to when those reports are coming out. So, if we have to have the information in by March, that's fine. But I do think that for me as a board member, to only be fair, I've got to have actual data, and that's going to have to pretty much be determined by Bo, because he knows when that data becomes available and can share it. And then those would become the check-in moments that we were looking at implementing, if I recall our prior communication on this topic.
So just to rewind a little bit, I think what my first year interim, what we tried to do was provide information on an ongoing basis with where we were at with STAR, and looked at all of our buildings, looked at all of our classrooms, measured, tried to figure out where we needed to support teachers. And so we've kind of lost some of that through COVID, because, we're working virtually, but now going back and getting a baseline of where we need to be. And then we have an assessment schedule that we're following. So when our kids come back into class, we're assessing where they're at with their ELA and their math, so we can try to get the extra supports where we need them. And then we're measuring that growth from when they're starting in the fall to that next assessment window in winter, which would be right before Christmas break, so teachers can see that information and update it. That assessment window probably should be something that you guys, that's what I was using before to provide you with information on, hey, this is our growth. These are the areas where we're making, we're over the 50th percentile, or, hey, we have teachers that are in the, 80th percentile in growth or achievement. Those are our exemplars. How are we doing that? That's kind of building that conversation.
Agreed.
Yeah, but I could go back and do a proposal and show you kind of what a timeline would look like, but I think you would want to have Paul maybe weigh in on that, just from the standpoint that you do want to have that done in the time if you want to fire me or not. Right? that is
Just we have to have that done, and, it's better to have it done early in the year.
right. But there's that ongoing conversation too, if things are falling apart, right? That won't happen, but it could happen down the road.
Yeah.
Try to be positive. What's that? That's
okay. So I'll look into an outside, and we'll see if we can get a different process, possibly one that the board would choose to use instead.
I think Bo should probably list his key dates somewhere for those report results.
Yeah. So the process that we used before, when I was in, that interim year, and we were looking at the data.
Whatever timeline is going to work with whatever data you have coming in, you should give us a list.
Yeah. And that's what, it was kind of built out on that. So we can come
Every-
back next time.
Every
and look
time
at
there
it.
was a report from you, though, whether it was from summer school on the LEAP program or whatever, that is all data.
Yeah.
And that is data we should be, quote, collecting. But every time there's a report, on curriculum, well, that'll be one of the things we'll
But
be
for me, if I
evaluating.
don't have a timeline, I don't know what's coming up. So if Bo or admin could just write a list of whatever those dates are going to be released,
Yeah.
so we can have an
Well,
expectation for
we
that.
also need to decide whether they're going to be released like via email or whether they're always going to happen at a board meeting, in which case we know when they're coming.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
The way it
I
should.
don't really care as long as I have a list.
So Tammy, the way I see it working is that you have that schedule, right? And we know in that December board meeting that we're going to be covering that growth from the fall to where we were at right there. We probably have our SBAC results from the previous year. Those are data points for us to look at, to take a look at each grade. And so we can kind of, pinpoint the months that we want to look at that information.
Right, but I won't know that unless it's on the December agenda, and then I only get that a week
Right,
ahead of
well,
time. But
that's
if
what I
there's
th-
like a summary somewhere, that would be helpful. That's all
Yeah,
I'm
there
asking.
we put a summary together with all those dates
It
on there.
needs to be spread out.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Because if everything's concentrated
what
in
I'm saying.
December, that's like, oh, it's overload, we
Yeah,
got too much to look at.
Absolutely.
So anyway, let's spread it out.
Thank you.
We'll either have this process or a different process that we'll talk about at the next meeting. All right. Moving on, let's go to COVID-19 operations update. Item, I think might be 7 now.
Yeah, it slipped down. So basically, I was just going to share tonight what the governor's update was and where we were at with that.
Right.
Okay, so the governor's update, it goes into effect tomorrow, which is masks for anyone inside, in a public spot. So, yeah, we don't really have a lot of leeway on what we're doing with that. I mean, I think there's a lot of superintendents that are trying to advocate through the Oregon Department of Education and COSA to advocate for having local control. And I mean, that's kind of the process that you work through on that. I don't know what spurred the decision, but to do that, but we are going to have to follow the guidance that we're provided. My goal, working with our staff, is trying to figure out how do we minimize negative impact to, the learning environment. I'm pretty happy that we're going to be coming back and doing 5 days of in-person full day instruction with kids. My biggest fear is not an issue with masks. My biggest fear is an issue without masks, that we're going to have to shut down a school or shut down classrooms. Because once we go back into CDL, which is distance learning for all, it's so difficult to make that transition and for our kids to not be at school. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to support those kids and keep kids in classrooms, keep teachers teaching, and trying to continuously get back to a system that works better for us. So some of the things we're trying to do to impact that is I met with all of the principals today, and I've also met with our facilities person to look at where are the areas in each school where we can have outdoor classrooms where kids don't have to wear masks regardless, and having multiple areas at each one of our schools. So when we're doing, when we're working with the littles and we need to be able to see their mouth more when we're forming letters and doing those things, we have an area where we can work. So as we work through this, all these hurdles that we have to work through to get to where we want to be, which is all of our kids in school learning, in a traditional fashion, we're trying to minimize the negative issues. So that's kind of what I wanted to share with you as we move forward with that.
Right?
I have a question real quick.
Sure.
Have you been in touch with the attorney on this? As you can see, I mean, it's a delicate issue, to say the very least.
Yeah, so our first question is what, what happens if we don't follow guidance, right? What do we expose, not just, we're looking at what do we expose our teachers? What do we expose our community to? What do we expose our school system to? What is the liability there? So can you go to the next slide, Alicia? I think the negatives were on there, some of the things that Paul shared with me. But he was very, the financial penalty really is not, it's not a huge thing. It's $500 per occurrence per student. So that can be.
Can that same student be fined again and again?
Yeah.
Do we know?
It's daily.
Okay, so every day they come without a mask and it's a daily.
And it's individual too, it's not in a group, right? So
Okay.
we kind of looked at that. The tort liability, which would be,
Somebody that gets injured.
yeah, well,
Because
if
of
someone gets infected
of-
or we're not following the guidance as provided by, the governor could say, okay, there's no more masks, we don't have to wear masks. We still have to be responsive to Lynn County Health and CDC and the Oregon Department of Health. They give us specific guidance on that as well. Now, they never say, they have never said, hey, you can't do this, but they have inferred that we strongly suggest this is what you do. And so some of the guidance with the other superintendents in our super secret meetings has been, what liability do we incur by not following best practice? And so if there is, an outbreak, what is our liability?
Do you know on that liability, would the school district and or paid staff, could they be held personally, do you know, accountable in a lawsuit?
There's a state ORS,
Okay.
and an administrative rule that the classroom teachers, educators must provide a safe learning environment. And that would be the argument that they created an unsafe learning environment. Therefore, the TSPC could revoke their license.
And my understanding on that, Mike, is that if a teacher were to have students in their classroom without masks, that puts them right directly involved with that law where they could lose their teaching credentials. The other question or point that I'm concerned with, Bo, you said it's not concerning financially, but one student for 4 weeks is a $10,000 cost to our district. Where's the money coming from to pay all of the utilities and everyone's salaries if one kid could cost us $10,000 in a 4-week time period?
Yeah, Todd, my thought on that was we weren't going to have just a reoccurrence. We would, that wouldn't be something, if we're given guidance, we're going to have to follow that guidance. The one deal I do want to bring to the board's attention is that Paul did say that there was exposure to the school board on this as well. So,
with
Go ahead, Todd.
With that being said, Bo, I hope they can hear me in the audience. There's at least me and probably other board members, because of our resolution that we passed, that we are not, or at least I am not comfortable with the fact that the governor's office is stealing the taxpayers' money and holding it hostage over us and what we're required to do. Through that resolution is the strongest thing we can do until there are enough districts and enough school boards across the state to do the same thing and get the governor to change, or for the districts to come together to take legal action. But we are not hiding and trying to abide by what's going on. If we have no income to pay teachers, and if teachers' licenses to teach are in jeopardy, and now I find out I'm legally responsible as well, our hands get tied by the government that unfortunately we elected her into there, and we've got to get her to make her own changes, and that will include more than just our school district. But rather than arguing and blaming the school board, we're on the same side. We want the control back local, like it was given to us originally. And then 4 weeks later, it's ripped out from under us based upon penalties. That is unfair. And that's what that resolution, as the first item of this meeting tonight, was about, was that our school board objects to this penalty phase, the fact that we no longer have control. So those in the audience, please don't think that we don't respect your opinion, but we are truly have our hands tied because of this. I was going to say stupid, but I won't, because of the mandates that have been placed upon every school district in the state of Oregon. Thank you.
Well, Todd, I appreciate what you said. I'm glad that you mentioned that, we do share the same concerns and viewpoint. I think that's important that we make that. And we do want the control back. I just want to explore and make sure we all understand what the culpability and liability is if we decide to go rogue and just say, fine, bring it on. But more importantly, besides me getting sued, what's the impact to our kids' education? I mean, is it possible that if they say, hey, you don't have a mask, we can shut you down? I don't know at what point where the government's authority lies in all this.
I don't think anybody really knows that because we've never treaded down this road before. So it's like when push comes to shove, you find that out.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think the kids are going to respond however the adults respond. So if we lead them saying, don't worry, things will be fine. You're going to be educated, which is our primary goal, is to educate. And we're not meeting that with everything that we have going on right now. And it's so far out of our control. And I think that's what the resolution speaks to, is taking back the control for the school board rather than divesting ourselves and giving it to somebody that doesn't even come to our town. She doesn't live here. She doesn't work here. She doesn't have kids in our school district.
That's right.
So in looking at this document, my one problem with this is it's what could happen. What it doesn't say, and the question I would prefer to ask is, how can we make it happen? And what do we need to do? And I think that's the bigger question.
Well, and that's a good point, Tammy. I think that's part of our official response is the resolution to say, give us back our control. Let us make that decision. From here, I don't know. That process is foggy at best.
That's what this letter should say, is how do you do it? Do you go to the city council and you say, city council, please change something and insulate our small town? Do you go to Lynn County commissioners? Please insulate our community. Those are the first places that I would look. But this letter says, fear this, fear that,
Right.
by the way, this. Don't forget, we want to take your home if you violate it. We're going
Right.
to cut your superintendent down. And so what we really want you to do is go away. And that's why I would like this letter to go back to Paul and say, how can we make it happen?
I totally agree with that.
Do you not think, though, by doing the resolution and going to the governor's office, that we would not get a response or a reply in regards to it? And at that point, I would expect the accountability goes to the governor's office to inform us of what it's going to take if she doesn't follow through. The other thing is I don't think our school district alone, or even city council, is going to be able to do anything on its own. It's going to be the joining of the school boards coming forward on this one topic and having a unity amongst school districts in order to force the governor to give us back our own taxpayers' money. You know, it's the citizens of our community whose money she's holding from us. But I don't believe that, as far as the resolution, I don't know if it needs to say, well, how do we get there? Because I don't know that you know, we need to make a loud statement. This is not acceptable. This is what needs to happen. And I just hope that Bo can get the message out to other superintendents, and hopefully other school boards will do the same. I understand what you're saying, Tammy, but I don't think it's our place to have to ask for our own money. I think it needs to be stated that we expect to have control of our own taxpayers' money. That's our
Well,
right.
Todd, that's a good point, but I mean, just based upon what she's done, we're going to have to fight for it, unfortunately.
And I think the bigger question here is, we're not just talking about this topic. This isn't
Right.
the only time that our nose has been cut off to spite our face. And it's going to spill over into other areas, and we have to recognize that, you know, communication is rampant. And Todd, you asked the question, will this resolution not send the question or query to the governor that we want? I suspect that they already know what school boards are looking at. School boards are looking at, well, we want to talk about the mask policy in our house. And we might not agree with the governor or the governor's people, but I think from our perspective, we should be allowed to hear that information from the people in our community. But I suspect that the governor already knew that school boards were leaning this way, and that's why the new rule came out.
That's right. Yeah, totally. I mean, they knew this was coming. So I would say that we do get with Paul, the attorney, and say, hey, just as you stated, Tammy, let's
Well, it's like this one issue, tort liability. Anybody who's gone through a legal case knows you have to prove your damages. You have to prove a connection to your damages. How many cases out there, I would ask our attorney, are really able to prove this? I'm sure there's a percentage, a number we can put on it. And then we would at least know what our real liability is.
But is it actually a resolution, or is that a totally separate document that is prepared, not part of the resolution, but as an inquiry of our board as to what we need to do, what needs to happen? I think the resolution makes it very clear that we're not happy and we aren't accepting what's going down. But I understand what you're saying, Tammy, but I would suggest that be a separate document, a separate letter, and provided separately as its own independent item.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. I think the resolution is a good place to start, but I don't think it's where we finish.
Correct. I would agree.
Oh, I agree. Very much so.
Yeah, we'll have to push hard. It'll cost. I mean,
Everything costs something.
yeah.
All right. Well, there'll be more discussion about this.
Are we agreeing that maybe we should go back to Paul and ask for a how can we make it happen later?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not sure what form that would take, whether it's going to be gathering information and saying we object at a much higher level than just the resolution.
Well, I'm just talking about whatever went into this. What are the liabilities for the school district board? I mean, I'm happy to write the question and say, what do we need to do to make local control happen? And let's just start with the most recent.
But maybe the
rule
letter
from
from the lawyer should honestly go to the governor. You know.
Say again?
What's that?
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
The letter from the lawyer, explaining the liabilities, should be on his letterhead and go either with the resolution or a separate right to the governor. I mean, after we've seen whether we have a case, so to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, let's get it formalized.
Well, we're
you
trying
know.
to pin down our exposure.
Yeah.
We're trying to pin down our exposure, and
Yeah, I
I'm not
mean,
sure.
once we've pinned down the
I
exposure.
don't know what that is.
Let's get it on and push a little harder.
One of the things I would suggest that we do, you know, that we're all under a microscope on it, is not, you know, that doesn't worry me or burden me. I want the end goal for the governor to know that we want locally to make this decision. Give her our goal, say, this is where we're at. How do we get there? And it'll be resisted. I mean, that's why she came out with these mandates, and then we fight it. You know, but our goal is, we want the local decision, not the governor.
Agreed.
You know, then if we decide
Hey.
something.
We'll push for that legally. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Do we want to approve this all as one item or take the items separately?
I think one would be fine. I'm in,
Altogether?
I'm in favor of it. I'll make a motion, we accept the consent agenda.
Okay, we
I'll
have a
second.
motion. We have a motion and a second. Todd
Thanks, Todd.
seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that passed unanimously. And we're moving on to operations. Do we have any reports on operations?
No, just basically with facilities, maintenance, those type of things, our people are looking at every opportunity we can create within schools to provide access for kids not to have to wear masks. So we're trying to be as thoughtful as we can. We went out and purchased a lot of cooling units to be able to keep air moving through the building better. We did not invest in HVAC systems at this point because we were afraid they would go through the roof. We need to repair the roofs before we put those up there.
Yeah, that might be helpful.
But that's part of the process of what we're trying to do. So I guess I just want the board to know that we're continuously looking at how can we improve the learning situation for our kids and the teaching situation for our teachers. And then being able to support kids. Every school, when it starts up, we're going to have extra support with our littles, but also we're going to have after-school programs that we've already been doing for the last couple years. Those are going to be implemented. And so the one thing we talked about as an administrative team is having some urgency in dealing with kids immediately with where they're at. So we're trying to, it's going to be a huge push on a system to make this happen, but it's exactly what we need to do. And I'll just keep updating you on where we're at with how we're trying to, the progress we're making.
What does the parental volunteer landscape look like for that?
Oh,
Any different? Same?
Yeah,
Pre-COVID?
Yeah, they haven't given us specific guidance. We might have to do some type of testing on a weekly basis or something like that. I don't know specifically.
Okay.
Okay, human resources,
I didn't have a report from Kim, so.
okay. And finance, is Will here?
Chairman Martin, members of the board, appreciate the opportunity to talk about finances this evening. We have the SRGP project, which is the seismic project retrofit at LHS High School that was paid for by a $2.7 million grant. The exciting piece is we had a leaky roof at the main gym, and that gym roof would have cost us $500,000 to repair, but we got a grant for $2.7 million to pay for the roof as well as a seismic upgrade, which will be a benefit to the community. We're on track to start school and have that gym access available. We will still be doing some retrofit as far as the roof goes into the fall. So we'll make sure everybody's aware of that. We're spending right in alignment with where we have in the past for summer school. We have the 25-75% split for our summer school grant. So as Assistant Superintendent Meckley talked about earlier, as we go through this summer school program, that is paid for by a grant. So it's pretty exciting. Doesn't come out of our pocket. Any questions?
None.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Will.
Okay, moving on to communications. Any board communications?
I do want to just express or let people know that I'm on vacation or I would be there in person. And so I apologize I'm not there today, but I did want to join through Zoom because of the topics. And I just want to thank those that also came out to express what's going on. I think we're all passionate about our educational opportunities and responsibilities. And so, we all have the same goals. And I take pride in being a board member and listening to the community. And so I do want to thank everyone. I do want to just clarify a couple things, not that I agree with it, but actually school board meetings, according to law or by law, is for the school board. It actually states in the ordinance that we do not have to allow the community any opportunity to speak at a board meeting. That's how the law reads. Now, any school board that would not take time to listen and have audience comments, they are the dictators. And so I know that our school board has always allowed audience comments, and I'm sure we always will. As long as I'm on the board, that I will fight for that. But the law does indicate that we don't have to include comments. And so I'm totally against that part of it, but I do just want to make it clear that everyone understands that honestly, the law states that we don't have to allow it. But again, like I said, we would be crazy not to. We need to hear the message from the community. Just know that a lot of times we're on your side. So don't assume that we're against the message that's being sent. Thank you.
Any other board communication?
I'm good.
Tammy?
I just wanted to respond to a couple of the comments tonight. There was a question about, at what point do we try and basically swim upstream? And part of that comes with the resolution, but, wanting and getting local control is something that we have to do on a regular basis. And I think we've probably gotten ourselves into a corner. And it's going to be a tough challenge unless everyone speaks as a group. And I agree that other school boards will need to stand up and advocate for local control. But part of what a board does is we respond to the community members because that's who puts us in the chair. So it's important that we receive community comment, and I really appreciate it. Sometimes these meetings can be rather dry. And I don't want to be here discussing what we're discussing tonight, but I do appreciate the attendance, and I've heard the comments out there, and I really do appreciate them.
Good. You done? Okay.
So I could go on longer if you want, but.
I was enjoying it. I was enjoying it. Okay, audience comments. Let's move on with the list, whoever's on the.
Did we skip superintendent? Did Bo? Did we skip? Did you have any?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, could we just, I just
You can
jumped
sit.
an item.
She
Can
can
we
sit.
wait? I skipped it accidentally.
You just
The
sit down in the
superintendent has
audience.
comments. You can sit right there.
Now, the only thing I would share is, we have 3,500 students, 7,000 parents. There's a lot of people out there, and trying to keep our community functional and not divided and working together, I think is one of the, when we started down this road, that was one of the things I shared with our team, that I just did not want to get to a spot where we just became so divided and divisive that it was, I don't want to make political decisions. That's not how we want to operate. So I think everyone has to kind of take that with a grain of salt, that everyone has different ideas, perspectives. We didn't get here on our own. Everybody, has helped along the way. So we need to kind of work with each other, show grace to each other, not condemn someone else because they don't believe exactly the same thing I do. Yeah, it's just, the way things work, sometimes it's not as clean and clear cut as what you would like, but it will work if you respect and have an open mind. At least it'll work better. So that's that's my 2 cents for the evening.
Hear ya. Good point. Okay, let's move on.
Lots of good points here tonight. Appreciate all your guys' comments. And that's what I'm here to say. It's great to hear where you guys are at, because we'll definitely power in the numbers, and you have your army started here. We can get more people here, and it doesn't, like Bo said, we don't all have to agree, but all of our rights are being infringed upon. But on the flip side of your liability that you were speaking about earlier, totally understand. Just wanted to make sure, I'm not sure where the liability would fall, if this is the board or the governor would be liable, but will athletes be required to wear the mask during highly physically demanding sports this season? I know, just so you're all aware of, in March, this past March, us, Lebanon cheerleader, passed out. Trainers were there, coaches were there helping. And we had numerous football players. Bo, you're a football player. Could you have run an 80-yard touchdown?
Yes, I could have.
Yeah, I know you did. I watched you, but with a mouthpiece, a football helmet, and a mask on.
No.
I'm like,
I'll
where's
just
the
share with you,
liability?
before we went down this path, that was one of the things that was
brought
going
up,
into
okay.
place was, eliminating, once kids are out of mandatory school classrooms, that wearing a mask would be
Optional, maybe?
exactly.
Okay, cool.
And then the same deal with, before we got the update, the other letter that we had that was going out was we were going to use, let parents decide what they wanted to do. But that's,
That's good. I'm just like, I don't need
it's
kids
based-
dropping off over that.
those things change with the change in, the caseload and stuff. We don't just ignore one thing and we try to be reasonable. So anyway,
Right,
I'm
but-
sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, sports though, Jennifer, you couldn't have swam, which I know you can wear your mask into the pool and then take it off. I know that, we just all need to be going, about what they're trying to do. So anyways, that's it. I just did ask my 7 and 9-year-old grandkids today about their issue with the mask. And they said, people are touching them. So then those germs are going everywhere. They can't hear the teacher. The teacher can't hear them. They can't see the teacher. These are 7 and 9-year-olds. So I just think, yeah, it's probably beyond us. It needs to be a bigger up there. So we need to get an army. I don't know. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, all. I appreciate your attention. I did not come here today intending to speak, but hearing what you guys all had to say and some of the things other people were bringing up, I just felt like, as part of the community, I wanted to just mention a few things that I don't think have been said yet. So I will give it my best shot. So kind of the first thing that I would like to kind of circle back to is Mr. Martin, earlier, when we had just closed up with the first set of comments, you had mentioned that, you know how you feel, but you don't necessarily know how anybody else feels. And I know that right now there's so many numbers floating around. And at this point, I feel like a lot of us have become numb to the numbers of COVID because there's so many different numbers. How do you know what to trust? But what I have noticed is what I can see that's real. And that's the last month where we have not had any mask mandates in Oregon. And you go to any store, let's just throw out Safeway. When it's the choice, how many people do you actually see walking around wearing masks? I mean, we're talking probably 5 to 10%. I don't know, maybe you disagree, but that's about what I have noticed. And I've been to many different places and that seems to be pretty consistent. So when you think about how you guys are representing the community, right? That's anecdotal evidence of really how people feel when given the choice of what is their risk tolerance. Are they willing to go out in public in an indoor space without a mask? And overwhelmingly, the answer is yes. So just something to consider, and knowing and sitting through, the conversation that you all just had, that was really great to hear all the things you guys have to say. And it really helps to understand that you guys are kind of more in the same headspace as a lot of these people than we realized. And one thing I would ask is, why did we not know that? Right? Like, why did so many people come here today thinking that we had to fight so hard just to make you understand how we felt, right? Because it's clear that for the most part, you already do in a lot of ways. Maybe not exactly, but we're all entitled to our own choices and our own opinions. And so that's the first thing I was thinking. And then also, Mr. Superintendent, you had mentioned that you like, numbers, trying to understand the numbers of things. And again, right, statistics are great, but we can become numb to the numbers, and also with the way that you can get into the analysis paralysis, basically, when you look at all the numbers of things. And so really, the community and what we can see is all we actually know. And a lot of times the numbers you don't know, because like you guys are talking about, maybe the timeline's not right, maybe you don't have enough data. And so what you see is what is real. And so, I mean, I'm an engineer, I love numbers, believe me, but there's a time and a place to step back and see the bigger picture too. And then the next thing is around options, right? So you had talked about wanting to, and I just wrote a bunch of notes on a little scratch card here, so I apologize, but I've heard a lot of conversation around like, what do we do, right? And I'm really glad to hear that there's a lot of people coming together and trying to talk about it here in Lebanon, right? But have we had conversations with other towns nearby? I know Sweet Home has put some sort of communication out. I don't have it with me, but around the fact that they are not in support of this. And then, Crook County, I know a lot of different counties and school districts have put something together. And so I do feel like if there's communication and, everybody can come together, right? I don't know who leads that, if that's you, superintendent, or who that might be, right? But I do think that that's key, because in talking about people losing certifications, losing, lawsuits, being sued, whatever it might be, right? There's one thing to say it and threaten it, but would they actually do that to the entire town of Lebanon? Right? I mean, would they actually do that? Would they actually take away every teacher's certification? Would they actually, follow through with all of the threats to everybody? A bit of a blanket statement, but still something I feel that's important, right? Especially when you start talking about getting this broader in Oregon, because there are a lot of other places I know of that are feeling very similar to this, right? And I don't think you guys have to be alone. And so my final comment would be, you guys aren't alone. Clearly, I mean, only 100, 200 people showed up here today. But again, you think of the fact of when you go to the store, right? How many people probably agree with everything that's being said here today? A lot of people. And so if you guys, I don't know how you could possibly involve us, right? But you have a lot of support. And I know that it's sometimes, we're just the people. And that's why it's so important, and why a lot of us appreciate the ability to come and talk today, because it feels like the only thing we can do. And so it's really nice to be able to have the opportunity. But I would say, is there anything we can do? Because I guarantee you that everybody here today, if there was something we could do to help, we would. So I would just ask that maybe you guys think about that too. Thank you.
Josh Barnes. We'll put him next. We'll go ahead and go to Wanda Grajeda. Ready?
Hi there, my name is Wanda. I do live in Sweet Home, and I'm here to support my neighboring community. We do have friends of grandkids that go here. We had a pretty good turnout at our board meeting on Monday with very like-minded people, and I think we got some good points across. I do appreciate especially what you're saying in support of the community. And helping. That calmed me down pretty good, so I appreciate that. I just wanted to give a little short story and also to say what I said at our board meeting. Today at the doctor's office, I refused to put a mask on. I stood up for myself. And I even warned my daughter, if they say anything about a mask, don't put it on and just say, I want to talk to my mom. And they made her put it on without me being there. And I raised hell because of it. Not you or the government is going to tell me and my family how to live. That's our choice, not anybody else's. Like I told the board, I'm most likely going to have my daughter enrolled through a different school online. Because if I decide to let my daughter go into the public school, and if I hear anybody force a mask and they don't let my child call me, I'm going straight down there and I'm gonna raise hell. That's all I gotta say.
That's low. Hello, Melissa Bernard. I'm a local business owner and a parent. First off, I want to say thank you for the resolution. And if we stand together and unite with you and this community stands with you, we can move forward. We cannot effectively teach our children their constitutional rights and then take away the ability to make these decisions with their parents, as you just heard, that I'm quite sure have been discussed ad nauseum on both sides of the issue, whether you're pro-mask, pro-vaccine, anti-mask, anti-vaccine. You know these have been discussed. I know in my house, my 13-year-old, he's given us his opinion. And he says, if I have to do it for sports, I want to do sports, but it's not healthy for him. He's a distance runner. He cannot wear that, not and stay healthy. So the decision to wear or not wear a mask or vaccinate or vaccinate or not vaccinate is very personal, and it needs to be treated as such. I can appreciate your position that you are in as a board, and I just urge you to follow the voices of the community and give the families the choices. If you can say, it's your choice. The teachers, if their vaccines work, if their masks work, then those children are no threat to them. If there are fines, I know this community will rally and fight with you. I will lead the charge. This is a mandate. It is not a law. And that's the part that everybody forgets. As a business owner, I had to close my business because of many of these things. I could not get people to come to work where I was. There was nobody that would want to come back to work because they're all stuck at home on government money. And it's like, what are you supposed to do? Some of you have been in my shop. So I'm now having to make a huge turn. And instead of getting to employ 6 to 8 girls in our shop, in our town, it's now something else, which I wish them all the best. But that's a very hard decision. So I guarantee you in my house, these discussions have had major, major airtime. And it's very hard. And I have made it from the very beginning. If my clients wanted to wear the mask, I had no issue. I've provided them masks if they wanted it. I cannot personally wear them. I cannot personally get the vaccine. I have heart issues. It's underlying conditions that one of those things, I had a client who died to heart issues after she got the vaccine. I'm one of those people. So I'm very cautious with what I do and where I go around, but that's my choice and my risk. In my business. And as many of these people in this room are a lot of my clients. And I just ask you to please, the time to stand is now, and we will stand with you. There was a whole bunch of people out there, and whether they are all into the masks or not into the masks, I don't know. So I'm just asking that the choice be given. And that's what I'm just begging you. So I appreciate the resolution. Thank you. Thank you.
We'll probably close down comments in about 10 minutes.
All right, I'll try to keep it brief then. First of all, I do not envy your position at all. I would not want to be sitting in your chair. I was a tiny bit concerned, so I was happy about the resolution that was potentially being presented, but I heard from Tammy, I heard from Richard, I heard from Michael. I didn't hear a word out of Bo on that one. I was going to ask, because ultimately that's where that resolution needs to come from, is Bo?
That's the board's resolution, not mine.
Yeah, it's ours.
We will all sign.
So I guess I was going to ask your opinion on that, Bo. How do you feel?
I don't want to, so my opinion is I'm gonna follow the guidance and maneuver our school district the best that I can.
So I guess a follow-up question to that would be, if that guidance strays to a point of, I mean, the word's thrown around, but tyrannical, things that you know in your heart are wrong for the kids, are you going to follow that to a T?
I mean, you're asking me a hypothetical.
I wish this scenario now would have been a hypothetical 2 years ago. And we're in it now.
Yeah, I can't tell you.
Okay. Okay. So that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. So I also wanted to bring up, and this is actually for parents in here too. I can talk to you guys about this afterwards too. But so in the OAR, the masking requirements in schools, 333-019-1015, section 6. It says nothing in this rule. So they list the entire masking rule for schools. And then at the bottom, section 6 says nothing in this rule is intended to prohibit a school from complying with the Americans with Disability Act, the Rehabilitation Act, or the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So what that encompasses, because your first thought is, I don't have a kid that has a special need. However, that also encompasses what's called the 504 plan, which I was going to ask Bo or maybe the board on this as well. So the 504 plan is encompassed in that ADA or American Disability Act, and that encompasses every child that has a hindrance in learning. So not necessarily a medically diagnosed condition or a disability, but if they have a situation in their school that is hindering their learning, the parent is allowed to come up with a 504 plan. They sit down with, whether it be the principal, teacher, everybody, and come up with those 504 plans to best educate their student. Now, I don't know if you guys have explored that option or heard about it or anything like that. I know that I'm going to be exploring that route with my child because I know my kid the best, and I think the parents back here know their kids the best as well. And so I know that my kid having something restricting his face for the entire school day is going to hinder his learning. And so what I am willing to do is provide different accommodations for that, which is what this plan does. Like, hey, if I got to check his temperature every morning, I'll check his temperature every morning. If I got to have a little hand sanitizer on his belt, I'm going to do that too. All that being said, have you or are you going to listen to these 504 plans that parents may introduce? Is that going to encompass?
We had that discussion today. Our new special ed director, he was kind of in charge of 504s for the state of Oregon at Oregon Department of Education previously. And so I know there is some, was notified that there's districts that are going out and actually encouraging families to, follow through and try to get a 504 for their kids if they don't want them to wear masks. we are not going to make a mockery of the 504 program. We have a process that we follow, and it's for students to actually get support, necessary support. So if you go through that process and that's found that, hey, that is a hindrance or there's some issue with that, we're bound to follow it.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't think that filing a 504 would make a mockery of it. If the bottom line is our kids need education, and I have a second grade kid, there's a lot more than learning what's 2 + 2 = 4. You learn body language, you learn communication skills, and if I'm only able to see, like if we were all wearing masks right now, I couldn't see the expression on your guys' face, and I wouldn't be able to read how you guys are reacting to this and what my next step would be in communication. I got a second grade kid that's not going to be able to learn that for how long? Until COVID goes away? COVID's not going away. And so if he is being hindered in his education, that falls exactly under that plan. And so I wouldn't think that that's a mockery, and I don't think anybody else that filed it would be a mockery of it either. So that all that to be said, take it into consideration, I hope, because I think that there's going to be a lot of those coming up.
I couldn't agree with you more though on the, we do want kids, a mask is not where we want our kids to be. We don't want our kids wearing masks. That's, but the other part of it is I want our kids to be in school 5 days a week, and I don't want to jeopardize that. And there's a balance right there, trying to make sure that we can do what we can do, move through this process. A couple of weeks ago, we were at a spot where it was going to be, the parents were going to be able to make that decision. And I'm hoping that we'll be there relatively soon again.
Okay. And just to clarify, the board is going to act separately from the superintendent on that resolution. Just so for my clarification.
Yeah, the board, we are 5 votes.
Oh, okay.
And however it turns out.
Is this
3 to 2.
provided to the public?
Well, it's on the website in the.
Yeah, the
Is that the
resolution's on
resolution?
the website.
Okay.
And it has signature blocks for the 5 board members
Okay.
only.
And that was going to be sent to we were talking about who's going to be sent to? Okay.
The governor.
That's
Correct.
correct.
Yeah, it's not required. This is our decision.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
All right, we have time for one more.
I never pictured myself here, and I'm sorry. I just have the story of one girl, my girl. I have a straight A student, 8th grade last year when she was forced to study at home. She failed every class, and because she was failing, my daughter became suicidal. I didn't know. She wants to be in school, but she has severe anxiety with wearing the masks. So you're asking me to choose between my daughter's life and her education because she can't learn from home. What do you suggest us parents do that have children who want to take their own life because they can't interact with other students, with other friends? What are you asking me to do? What are you asking me to choose?
That is what a 504 is for. If your student that was creating anxiety and it was hindering your student in that way, that's exactly what a 504 would be for.
But you're still requiring them to wear a mask to be in school.
Not if there was an accommodation made.
She
through
was
the 504.
required to wear a mask
Was
to
she
be in
was she
school.
on the 504?
They didn't give us that option.
But not with a 504. If the 504 is written in there, there's accommodation.
I didn't want to cause an argument. I just
time.
want you to know that there are parents out there that don't know what to do. And I'm one of those. I'm not a political person. I've never been to a board meeting in my life, but my child is important. My child is just as important as everybody else. And you guys have got to start putting all kids first. They do not need to have masks on. They are not spreaders. Masks don't do anything. Nothing. I can sit here and do this, and I can cough, and I can come shake your hand, and you will be getting the same bacteria on you that you would be if I coughed into my hand without my shirt, because it goes right through. They are not the primary carriers. Start standing up for our kids, because if my child dies, it's on you. It's on you. Yes, it is. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for your input. We did hear your voice. I'll talk to you outside. The guy who I said I'd talk to. The school board is not a political organization. Yeah, well, think what you want, but we're not politically oriented. We're not politically driven, and we don't follow a political party. We listen to our constituents, and we are all community members. We all live in the same town. We probably all drive down the same streets. It doesn't mean that we don't understand where you're coming from. I mean, I've got, 5 grandkids. One can learn online, the rest can't.
What happens now? What happens next? What is your next step in defending our school district and the children's rights?
Well, I'm not going to say I'm going to get in my car and drive to the Capitol tonight.
Let's do it. I got gas.
No, but with your support, we're heard a lot better.
To be quite honest, I would have rather seen this rally on the Capitol steps.
Saturday morning. Saturday morning.
Our next school board meeting is on the Capitol steps. Our
But
next school board meeting, Capitol steps.
That's,
It's
they're,
happening Saturday morning at 10 a.m.
they're the, hold it, they're the political organization that created and caught us in the middle. So we do not appreciate being caught in the middle, and we are sandwiched in,
But you're our voice.
You work for us.
not with the state.
You are because you have to fight the educational system, which is controlled by the state.
Exactly. Why don't you stand up and say,
I know how the state works. I'm there every
My community
day.
is upset, and this is what my community's saying. This is what they want. Be our voice.
I'm losing my job mid-October because I'm not going to wear a mask or I'm not going to get vaccinated.
Right. You know how many
We need to
people?
stand
All
up,
right.
and now is the time, and we need you guys as our voice.
All right, we did hear that. Give us a chance
So
to
can I make a
talk
suggestion?
about it.
I mean, we're signing a resolution, which is, some of it just seems superficial, but it's something and it's a starting place. And I would suggest that the community countersign that resolution. I'm sure we could have a piece of paper with lines on it, and every one of you sign it, get your community members to sign it, and then we send it. That way we at least
Hand deliver it?
speak as one.
Can we do a hand delivery where the mayor?
Patty?
Sorry.
Patty?
I came tonight, I've never been to one. I've never been to a board meeting in years. But I came tonight because I care. I'm gonna be one day having a grandchild. And all of these people out here didn't think normal. They come with a predetermined notion. And they're angry. It's a scary, scary time. Very scary. And so by putting us into this situation, rather than having this meeting in a venue that would accommodate people and have it be a little bit more orderly, I would agree. But that would be my suggestion to you folks. It's not gonna get easier for a while. And by having all these people out here in 100 feet, when we perfectly got a high school gymnasium that we could utilize.
Or district office, you know, that has AC.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just making a suggestion.
Alicia,
If we're
can
gonna
you,
work
is she picked
together
up on the microphone?
and support each other, we have to. Can you hear me?
Keep
We
going.
can hear you.
She needs to sign in. Anyway, that is my suggestion.
So Patty, before you go, I'd like you to sign in, and just to summarize in case the mic didn't pick it up, your suggestion was to get a better venue so that everyone could at least, oh, perfect. Yeah, all right. Thank you, Patty.
All right, where are we with the community signing the?
I just think we should have a bunch of lines on, or back of some paper and start letting people sign it, and then we send it with the resolution. Again, it's a small baby step.
Yep.
But it lets them sign
Gets
and
everybody on the same page.
put their John Hancock with ours, and we're united, at least on this, today.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's another day.
Yeah.
You could use the sign sheet too.
Use the copy of the sign-in sheet. Well, I don't want to use somebody's signature that before, but we'll just use the back of paper that we have. Meeting adjourned?
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of people signed the attendance sheet, was in hopes that you would see how many people were here.
That's a different issue than countersigning our board resolution, in which I would invite everyone to do it, or take a copy of whatever we put out and, you know, postage stamp, post it to the governor.
We can hand deliver it.
Hand deliver it?
I'm down.
I say hand deliver it, this is not my first rodeo, I say hand deliver it, proud, but everybody that's in this community, I know they know 20, 30 people who will sign it. Let them post a signature sheet or whatever, and we bring them all to you by a dedicated date that we send this all up there, and we all can caravan of.
And we don't want to wait long. I mean, this has to be,
It won't be
Be
long.
done by Friday.
We can have it done by Sunday on your desk
We
Monday
could
morning.
probably have you 1,000 signatures by Friday.
Next Friday?
This Friday.
All right. Well, if you gather the signatures just on a sheet of notebook paper is fine, or a blank sheet of typing paper, as many as you possibly can, and number them all. I mean, because then they can look at how many people signed it, you know, and get them to the district office. Then I'll gather them together and make arrangements to take them up. We'll have to, you can email me, why don't you have one designated person that could email me and tell me how we're going to caravan or go together? If that's going to happen.
by Monday?
What?
By Monday? Give them a deadline.
Monday or Tuesday, yeah, we
What-
can go.
Monday, 5 PM?
We can go, I'm trying to think of my calendar on Monday.
It's just to have it to the district office. They need a
Oh,
deadline.
you mean to bring things to the district office Monday?
Monday, 5 PM?
Yeah, bring things to the district office Monday by 5 PM, the signatures. Okay, and then I don't know, let's go Tuesday.
It's just going to be our resolution. You're going to countersign our board's resolution. It's there.
It just won't be on that sheet. It'll be accompanying it, right?
You can have mine, but it's not signed yet.
Yeah, I've got one here for signing.
It's posted on the board minutes.
I would suggest that on the signature pages, that they be labeled at the top that indicates in support of resolution of this date, so that is very clear that the signatures obtained were in support of this resolution and not for something else.
Yeah, from the Lebanon Community School District.
Thank you, Todd.
All right, and then Tuesday morning, I'll either take it up myself or we'll go with a group of people. Tuesday morning. I don't know what time, but we can probably go, I don't know, 9 o'clock.
Probably do the rest off record.
Leave at 9 from the district office. 9 o'clock? Yeah.
Just wondering, I know you did, is there a way that we can add more comments like a website?
I don't think the comments are going to be read at this point. I think if we take this up, I think the signatures are going to be the comments. The more, the better. I mean, we're not going to all be able to march into the Capitol building, and we're probably not going to get to give it to the governor. We'll give it to a representative, but bring your signs.
9 o'clock.
9, Tuesday. Okay, if that's it,